is the tutorial or the answers for the study guide for Algebra Test 4. So let's take a look at the first type of problem that you'll see. And it's one that asks us to modify or rewrite a formula. And so we're going to take this formula, and I'll just rewrite it here. V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. This is the volume of a cone. And we want to solve for the height, is what we want to get by itself. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to undo what's being done to the height. Well, the first thing is 1/3 is being multiplied by this expression here, the pi r squared h. So I'm going to multiply by 3. That's going to cancel out that 1/3. I do the same thing to the other side, and I'm left with this. 3v equals pi r squared h. So now in one step I can get rid of the pi r squared by dividing by it. So that's going to cancel out the pi and the r squared on the right hand side, leaving me just with h. So my answer is 3v over pi r squared equals h. So looking at the next problem, it asks me to solve for y. So to get y by itself, I need to move the 3x over first. And so when I do that, I like to have the x term first. So negative 3x plus 8 equals 6y. So my next step is to divide by 6. So I'm going to divide each of the terms by 6 and then reduce the fraction. So what I've got is negative 1/2 x plus 4/3 is the value of y. That would be my answer. So the next problem is going to have me do a unit conversion. It says that a car is traveling at 55 miles an hour, and what is the car's speed in feet per second? So I'm going to write out 55 miles per hour. And I'm going to do two conversion factors. First of all, I'm going to convert hours to seconds. So I want the hours to cancel out. So I'm going to put an hour up top. So let me fix that. So I'm going to put 1 hour up top, and then I need to figure out how many seconds 1 hour is. Well, that's 3,600 seconds. And so that's going to cancel out the hours. And so now I'm left with seconds on the bottom, which is what I want, but I need to cancel out miles and make it feet. Well, it says here that 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. And so that's going to end up canceling out the miles, and it's going to leave me with what I want, which is feet per second. So to figure it out, here's where you use the calculator. You multiply 55 times by 5,280, and then you divide by 3,600. That'll give you your answer. So when you do that work, I ended up with 80.6 repeated. And so that's the same thing as 80 2/3 feet per second. If you wrote 80.6 repeated, I would take that answer as well. Just make sure your units are there. And let's take a look at the next type of problem we'll end up seeing. That is over here where we have Al earns 25 cents per hour. 25 cents per hour. And we need to change that to dollars per day. So I'm going to change, first of all, hours into days. And so there's 24 hours in 1 day. So you see how that's going to cancel out my hour and leave me with days in the denominator, which is what I want. Now I'm going to cancel out cents. So I know there's 100 cents in $1. That's going to cancel out the cents. And so now I'm ready to multiply. So I have to do 25 times by 24, and then I take that answer and divide it by 100. So when I did that work, I ended up with $6 per day. So the next one is solving a proportion. So I'm just going to cross multiply here. So I'm going to do 7 times by k plus 2. And then on the other side, I'm going to multiply 5 by 2k minus 11. So I go ahead and distribute, and I'm left with 7k plus 14. And then on this other side, I end up with 10k minus 55. Minus because you see the subtraction sign in front of the 11? Well, that tells me that I have a negative 11 times by a positive 5 makes a minus 55. So I'm ready to solve by just doing some opposite operations. I'll subtract the 7k from both sides, and now I have 14 equals 3k minus 55. So I'm ready to add the 55 to both sides, and that gives me 69 equals 3k. And 3 does go into the 69 evenly, so that leaves me with 23 for the value of k. So the next one says an 8-ounce can of orange juice contains 97 milligrams of vitamin C. So 8 ounces is to 97 milligrams. So I'm going to set it equal to, because they're going to say how many milligrams. Don't know how many, so I'm going to put an X down there for the number of milligrams of vitamin C are in a 12-ounce container. So it's a proportion. Notice I have the same units in the same location of the fraction. A few ways to set these up. As long as your 8 and X are diagonal from one another, you're going to get the right answer. So I have to multiply 97 by 12. And when I did that multiplication, I ended up with 1,164 equals 8x. Well, when you divide by 8, you end up with x equals 145 and 5/10. This is milligrams of vitamin C. So let's take a look at our next problem. And it gives us in a diagram of the park, the triangles are similar. The crosswalk at point A is 20 yards. So here's point A, so this distance right here is going to end up being that 20 yards. And then a bridge across the pond, so this bridge right here, from B to C, what will that end up being? Well, if the triangles are similar, that means that this triangle, AFD, is similar to this larger triangle. The larger triangle is BCF. So they give me some units here. This is 50. They told me that this was 20. F to C is 120, and they want to know what is the length of the bridge. So I can set it up. So 20 is to 50 as x is to 120. So I'm ready to cross multiply. And when I do that, I get 2400 equals 50x. So when I divide by 50, I get the answer, and that's 48 yards. And so you can see it's yards because that's what the units are. And the next problem says Ed makes a giant model of a housefly, and the actual fly is about 0.2 inches long, so I'm going to just say long here, and with a wingspan of 0.5, so that's the wingspan. And I'm going to set that equal to what the model is, and they said the model of it will be 27 feet. That's how long it is, compared to the wingspan. Not sure what that is, so this is the wingspan. So I'm ready to go ahead and cross multiply here. 0.2 times by x gives me 0.2x. On this other side, I've got to take half of 27, so 5/10 times by 27. So that leaves me with 13 and 5/10 equals 0.2x. So when I divide by 0.2, it's going to give me a bigger number. Whenever you divide by a decimal like this, it's going to give you a larger number, and that is 67 and 5/10 feet. So that's our wingspan. It kind of makes sense because you see how the length is shorter than the wingspan. Wingspan is a little bit longer, so it makes sense. Now, these problems you won't be able to use a calculator with, so you'll just have to know them. So square root of 441. I know it's an odd number, so I try odd numbers. And if you weren't sure, you could just multiply 21 by 21, and you'd see you'd end up with 441. Well, again, 225 is an odd number, and that ends up being 15 times 15. Down below, 1600. Well, I know 16, the square root of that is 4, and the square root of 100 is 10. So if you multiply those, you end up with 40. Just need to reduce the fraction if you get something like this. Take out the common factor. So I see 5 goes into each of these, so the answer I'm looking for would be 3/8. This next one, well, just looking at the 25, I see the square root of 25 is 5. But I need to get the decimal to move over 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So since I'm multiplying two numbers that are the same, I'm going to try 0.05 times 0.05. And that's going to work out because 5 times 5 makes 25. The decimal moves over 1, 2, 3, 4. So that move it over those 4 spaces all together. So this is going to be 0 and 5/100. So those are the problems you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck. Or actually, on the test.